15 years ago, Shinzo Abe had advocated for a rules-based Indo-Pacific. This was during his historic address to the Indian Parliament. The Quad has since come a long way. Today, Tokyo hosted the second ever Quad Leaders' Summit, the second ever in-person summit. How did it go? Let me show you.
Prime Minister Albanese, I welcome you to your first Quad meeting. Like I said, you got on a plane, you were sworn in, got in a plane, and if you fall asleep while you're here, it's okay. Because I don't know how you're doing it. But
the new Australian government's priorities align with the Quad agenda.
क्वाड इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र के लिए एक कंस्ट्रक्टिव एजेंडा लेकर चल रहा है। इससे क्वाड की छवि एक फोर्स फॉर गुड के रूप में और भी सुदृढ़ होती जाएगी।
It is extremely important for us to show a strong commitment to the shared vision of the free and open Indo-Pacific to the international society.
This is what the Quad looks like today. A seasoned leader, a jet-lagged Prime Minister eager to take the alliance forward, a leader preoccupied by tensions at home, perhaps even facing a midterm election setback, and a Prime Minister sincerely carrying the legacy of his predecessor. This is the grouping of the world's biggest democracies. They share some common waters and a common concern. It's called China. So what did the Quad achieve in its fourth big meeting in less than 2 years? Tonight, we sum it up in 4 highlights. Number 1 is China, of course. This year too, China did not find a direct mention in the summit, in the joint statement. Perhaps Quad believes in signaling, not naming. This summit, for example, was headlined by the launch of a satellite system, a system designed to track illegal fishing in the high seas. Or should I say, Chinese illegal fishing. So here we have clear action aimed at China without naming China. We'll discuss this in detail in a bit. Let me come to highlight number 2, India's vaccine diplomacy and pandemic response. It drew praise from all leaders involved. The Quad lauded India's leadership and solutions to the global problem. Sources also tell us that Joe Biden contrasted India's success in handling the Wuhan virus with China's failure to control this homemade pandemic. Biden said, Prime Minister Modi's success has shown the world that democracies can deliver. Sources also tell us that Anthony Albanese, the Australian leader, told Prime Minister Modi that vaccines exported by India made a difference on the ground. Prime Minister Kishida of Japan also praised India's vaccine Maitri. India's Prime Minister Modi is currently the senior-most Quad leader. He's been in office for 8 years. That's almost half of the Quad's lifetime. The Prime Minister has seen this alliance grow, and he's best positioned to assess the group's progress. Today, he told his fellow leaders that the Quad scope has become extensive and its form effective.
कोविड-19 की विपरीत परिस्थितियों के बावजूद हमने वैक्सीन डिलीवरी, क्लाइमेट एक्शन, सप्लाई चेन रेजिलियंस, डिजास्टर रिस्पांस और आर्थिक सहयोग जैसे कई क्षेत्रों में आपसी समन्वय बढ़ाया है। इससे इंडो पैसिफिक में शांति, समृद्धि और स्थिरता सुनिश्चित हो रही है।
A lot of convergence, but on Russia and Ukraine, the leaders are not on the same page. US President Joe Biden used the forum to sell America's narrative. He once again insisted that the war in Europe is everybody's business. Japan's Fumio Kishida said that the Quad should not let a similar invasion happen in the Indo-Pacific, which is a clear reference to China's dream project, the invasion of Taiwan.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine clearly challenges the principles written in the Charter of the United Nations. We cannot let the same thing happen in the Indo-Pacific region.
and this is more than just a European issue. It's a global issue.
Remember, India has refused to join the US-led sanctions against Russia. India also continues to buy Russian oil despite American pressure. And at the Quad summit today, India's challenge was to ensure that Ukraine does not hijack the agenda. The press here has some interesting observations on this. It says India prizes its non-aligned status, that India can only be a partner, not an ally. Perhaps the realization has dawned on India's Quad partners. Now we move to highlight number 4, which was a Quad leader himself, the new Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, 59 years old, elected to office on Sunday. He took oath of office almost immediately and was in Tokyo on Monday, just so that he could attend the Quad summit in person. Well, it says a lot about Albanese's commitment to Quad. So what does Albanese bring to the table? Years of experience, also a deep understanding of the Indo-Pacific. He has served as the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia. He's taken the baton from an administration that has been remarkably tough on China. Remember, Australia called for a probe into the source of the Wuhan virus. They also slammed Beijing's security deal with the Solomon Islands. This was under Scott Morrison. You see, China's expansionist moves are inching closer to Australia, and the Quad may be Albanese's best bet to counter it.
And as we gather today, I acknowledge all that the Quad has achieved. Standing together for a free, open and resilient Indo-Pacific region, and working together to tackle the biggest challenges of our time, including climate change and the security of our region. My government is committed to working with your countries, and we are committed to the Quad.
In fact, I have the joint statement with me. Allow me to quote a few lines from what it says. This is the Quad joint statement, and I'm quoting: "We will champion adherence to international law, particularly as reflected in the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, and the maintenance of freedom of navigation and overflight to meet challenges to the maritime rules-based order, including in the East and South China Seas. We strongly oppose coercive, provocative or unilateral actions that seek to change the status quo and increase tensions in the area, such as the militarization of disputed features, the dangerous use of Coast Guard vessels and maritime militia, and efforts to disrupt other countries' offshore resource exploitation activities," not naming China, but sending a direct message to China. So that's enough and more references to China, like I said, without directly naming it. This is signaling at its best. There's also a very interesting reference to another country. Let me read it out for you. "We denounce the use of terrorist proxies," guess which one this is, "and emphasize the importance of denying any logistical, financial or military support to terrorist groups which could be used to launch or plan terror attacks, including cross-border attacks. We reiterate our condemnation of terrorist attacks, including 26/11 Mumbai and Pathankot attacks." If you're thinking Pakistan, you're right. The statement also mentions the Quad Fellowship. It mentions Myanmar, climate, technology, cybersecurity, space, infrastructure. The scope is vast. But could the Quad have set more precise security goals, perhaps lay out a clearer roadmap for an open, free and inclusive Indo-Pacific that the leaders keep talking about endlessly? It could have. Could the leaders have addressed the skepticism around the Quad vis-a-vis the AUKUS? They could have. The Japanese Prime Minister said they're not looking to join the AUKUS, but they want a closer security partnership with Australia. Has China reacted to this joint statement yet? It hasn't. But its fighter jets have carried out sorties over the Sea of Japan, also the East China Sea. What's more, these Chinese jets were joined by Russian fighters, and these joint flights corresponded with the Quad summit, a 13-hour-long operation according to some reports, and that's signaling again for you. Signals of clear security alliances being drawn here. For now, like they say, all's well that ends well. The Quad ended on a good note. An in-person meeting in the middle of a war, an in-person meeting at the heels of a change of guard, in the middle of a pandemic, in China's backyard, and despite clear and stated differences on Russia. It only underlines the Quad's commitment to the alliance. These four countries have signaled that the Quad is not a fad, as Joe Biden put it, and it's a force for good. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.